Kentucky's 22 pre-filed Bill Request 69, what it says, and why this Kentucky teacher does not support it. Hello, I'm Chris, and I'm a Kentucky social studies teacher. I have two reasons for making this video about the pre-filed Bill 69. I'm interested in helping people learn how to become more involved with Kentucky's legislative process, and also in sharing the results of my learning after having studied the wording of the bill. If you're interested in learning more about the legislative process, there's going to be a website in the description below this video. Check it out. It's pretty interesting, and it's helpful to stay informed. I'm going to delve into some language of particular interest to me in this bill, but before we begin, let me please remind everyone viewing that these opinions are mine and mine alone. I am a social studies teacher in Kentucky, and this bill directly affects me, my students, and their learning. Let's dive in. Scrolling to page 3 of the bill, I scanned the text and thought to myself, what's there to argue with? Beginning on page 3, line 4, I started to reread the following, more closely this time. A local board of education or board of a public charter school shall ensure that no public school or public charter school offers any classroom instruction or discussion, formal or informal, or distributes any printed or digital material, including but not limited to textbooks and instructional materials, that promote any of the following concepts. The first one listed here is 1, race, sex, or religion is inherently superior to another race, sex, or religion. There are 7 more concepts below that would be prohibited from being taught. On the surface, I feel like what this is trying to say is that no person shall promote one sex, religion, or race over another, and we will not teach our kids to feel that way. Okay. That's good. Like I said, everyone would have a problem with a concept like that being taught to students. But what I found is that in reality, this wording does something very different. Let's give it another read. It says, no public school offers any discussion or distributes any material that promote any of the following concepts. And this is why I'm concerned. This bill does not just keep one person from teaching these troubling concepts. It prohibits the teacher from providing anything to read about these concepts for the purpose of discussing and learning from them. Based on the wording of this bill, I, a teacher trained to foster student engagement in civic discussions, cannot give any material written by people who promote any of these 8 concepts. We cannot discuss it. We are not allowed to express our feelings about these 8 concepts, to even acknowledge that they were ever a part of human history at all. No discussion, formally or informally, ever. How in the world are we supposed to learn from history so we are not doomed to repeat it? Let's take a closer look at just the first concept listed in the bill together. It says, one race, sex, or religion is inherently superior to another sex, race, or religion. In today's world, the general population would obviously feel like these concepts are not to be tolerated. We certainly don't want these being promoted in our schools. However, in ancient history, primary documents regularly contain statements that exactly uphold these concepts. Historical figures often claimed that their race and religion in particular were inherently superior to other races and religions. Now, according to this bill, we are prohibited from reading about that historical viewpoint. Here's an example for you. Many people would say that they remember from their own education that the U.S. government was modeled heavily on ancient Greek and Roman governments. Well, there were a few Roman emperors that believed they were gods, and they wrote about that. They believed that they were inherently superior to everybody else, and their documentation, the primary sources that we could read, reveal that. If this law passes, am I no longer allowed to share that source as part of learning about that important time in history? Are students not allowed to consider for themselves the effects that type of concept had on those ancient societies? Currently, in social studies classrooms throughout Kentucky, students learn that our modern civilization has evolved as a result of having a long and storied past to study and analyze. They learn to think about how even actions dating from ancient history continue to inform the changes civilizations make to become today's modern societies. In a safe and civically minded learning environment like my classroom, I, as a teacher, provide a variety of primary and secondary sources that allow for the analysis of opposing viewpoints. In a structured setting, teachers engage students in an inquiry process that helps them develop their own informed opinion based on their analysis of those sources. Students discuss their educated claim and they back it up with appropriate evidence, all based on their analysis of sources written by very flawed human beings. Students thrive in an inquiry-based classroom. When students engage with age-appropriate sources, they even hone their ability to eliminate the very concepts this bill is trying to ban. This law's wording is problematic because it doesn't address what it intends to address. It causes far more harm than it was ever meant to prevent. The intention is to prevent detrimental concepts from being transmitted to a body of students by governing authorities. And yet it even does so much more damage than that. At its essence, it censors many primary and secondary documents from the classroom. It eliminates the free exchange of ideas and concepts in the classroom, and even prohibits informal discussion of these concepts. So on the flip side, it actually encourages the spread of misinformation by limiting access to history. I believe strongly every child is entitled to a free and public education in the United States. And I believe as a teacher that I can foster the ability of my students to read, think about, and discuss age-appropriate primary and secondary sources. The wording of this bill absolutely prevents that. That's it for me. Thank you for listening. I hope you're inspired to read proposed bills. After studying this one, I called my legislators and expressed my opinion. You could do the same. I am open to dialogue about the wording of this bill. There is another entire section about post-secondary education and a different pre-filed bill I didn't even touch on today. So let's talk. Have a good one. Thanks again.